First of all, I would like to thank you all. We are expecting more than 100 people that registered. Is a very good news for Innovorg, as oops, something went wrong, as we have been frozen from March because of COVID-19. We have organized a workshop in Porto, and now we are restarting our activities with this workshop. It was a good opportunity because of the publishing of the results of this survey, and Stephen proposed us to share the results. So I would like to thank Stephen for helping us to put this first event in place, and to thank you also to Isabel and Marta for his participation and sharing with us their contributions from their experience, and Carlos Brito for making UPT facilities available for this workshop and for his contribution that is always very important for us. We have Stephen, so the price we have to pay to have Stephen is to speak in English. Is what we have to do. But if anyone is more comfortable to put questions in Portuguese, please do, and we will arrange to translate, to do a quick translation or something. Okay. The important is that we can exchange our ideas. The layout of the workshop is like you are seeing there. We will have a first short talk from Carlos Brito about the importance of organizational innovation for Portugal. Then we have the presentation of the results by Stephen. Then the comments from a CEO and a CHRO done by Isabel and Marta. And then we have the discussion. We hope we can discuss the results because the survey included Portugal, so it's very important to know how we are comparative with the other countries. At 7, so no problems if Marta needs to leave at that time, we have a small talk to discuss a little bit about the role of business schools, because traditionally the business schools are more focused on functional areas, and these new perspectives of work organization and management, the systemic and collaborative and co-creative leadership, things like that, are not so much detailed. And as a UPT, as also the management themes, I think it's a good opportunity to share a little bit these ideas, so that we can also have some ideas in UPT to develop the courses. During all the workshop, we are also paying attention for your contributions in terms of initiatives for Innovorg to develop from now on. Before giving the word to Carlos, just 1 minute to say something about Innovorg. This is the governing bodies, so the board, the general meeting board, supervisory board. Innovorg belongs to UIN, it's a UIN node. UIN is a network that was promoted by the European Commission, and Stephen was one of the co-founders and wants to promote all these ideas, workplace innovation ideas, through all the Europe. There are already several institutions belonging to the steering committee. You can see them there. Innovorg is also there. So all together we try to create organizational innovation wave, so that we can foster these ideas. In the website of WIN, you can find articles and the events, and a repository of films will come next. And what we want is to discuss all the organizational innovation practice, and that is the focus of our workshop. The idea is to unlock employee potential, changing not only the people but also the organizations themselves. I think sometimes we see lots of initiatives trying to change the organization, others trying to change people, but mixing both together is not so easy and so usual. We intend in Inovar to develop some initiatives. What you would like is to create a reference maturity framework to organizational innovation, to create an observatory of practices, to create a repository, to implement an annual award for the best practices, and to disseminate the ideas. Well, this said, so I would ask Carlos to take the virtual stage and do his first talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George. Maybe you can stop sharing your presentation so that we can see together. Thank you very much. Firstly, on behalf of Universidade Portuguesa, I would like to welcome everyone and saying that it is a great pleasure to be in this partnership with Inovar regarding the organization of this event. A special thank and greetings to our speakers, Isabel Gomes, Marta Branquinho, and also, of course, Stephen Dont. And of course, I would like to welcome everyone and saying that it is a great pleasure being here with you. I am supposed to talk about organizational innovation for Portugal. As a matter of fact, I think that if you don't mind, I will not focus on for Portugal, because I think that what I will say it is for all over the world and not only for our country. And I will begin with a brief words regarding innovation. Most people say that innovation is very, very important today. It will be very, very important in the future. But as a matter of fact, it has always been important since humans are humans. From the beginning of times, those societies, those communities who have developed new solutions for their problems, for their challenges, are the ones that became more dynamic, more competitive. And now, of course, we apply this to companies and to organizations in general. But this is the first idea that I would like to share with you. Innovation has always been a driver for more competitive organizations. Now, what is innovation? Innovation is basically value creation. It's basically value creation. But value creation based on new solutions. Because it is, if it is in existing solutions, this is not innovation. But what I want to stress is this point. We can only speak about innovation when we join these two things. A new approach, a new solution, which can create value. If we don't have value creation, we are not talking about innovation. In fact, most people think that value is only confined to economic value, of course, but we can also speak about social value, and in this case, social innovation. we can also say that value creation can also to do with environmental value or cultural value or so forth. The important thing is that innovation requires two things: new solutions and value creation. Now, when you ask, well, in fact, when you say new solution, what are you referring to exactly? These new solutions can be, I would say, can be operationalized in terms of products. A new product can be a new solution, a new service, a new process, a new business model. That's what I'm talking about. New solutions involving this type of things, not necessarily products. It can be just a process or just a new business model. And in this regard, what we can say is that independently, if we are creating new products or new services or new products or new processes or whatever, we need innovative organizations. In a sustainable way, I can have epiphany and create a new thing. Say, well, this guy is very creative, but I'm not addressing two creative guys. My point is, how can we create organizations that are, let us say, ecosystems for innovation? And having an innovative organization, which means having an innovative ecosystem, which is always open to its environment, requires, of course, I would say, a structural basis, namely a digital structure that supports innovation, but mainly it requires the right mindset, I would say, the right organizational culture. It's not only a matter of having the best facilities in terms of digital means or other equipments or other facilities. If we don't have the right values, the right attitude, the right mindset, we don't reach, we are not going so far. And in terms of organizational innovation, there are two major issues that we need to manage, or at least to foster, or even at least to just to give the conditions to spread. One is creativity and the other is entrepreneurial attitude. But since I don't want to lose the participants in this meeting, for the moment, I will not say anything more and just say, if you want to hear the continuation of my reasoning and of the reasoning of our guest speakers, please stay here, because we will listen very interesting things. Thank you, Jorge.
Thank you, Carlos. It's interesting, the message of creativity, entrepreneurship, but I think the most important of those is attitude of the people. That is very, very important. So I'll give the word to Stephen. Stephen, please, is now the time for you to share with us the results of survey. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you, Jorge, and thank you, Carlos, and thank you, everyone. Apologies that I can't speak Portuguese. I am trying to do that every day, but it's still at that low level that I don't want to share my experience, my language levels with you. I'm very grateful for Jorge to invite me to this meeting, and we've been working, I think, cooperating now 6-7 years in the UN network. So I think this is a really nice achievement that we're able to talk at this moment with all of you at this screen. Sadly, of course, with the COVID crisis, we all have to stay at this kind of distance from one another. It would, of course, be much nicer to be there in Porto and talk with you there and share ideas. Yesterday, I was invited to speak at the port of Rotterdam, which used to be the biggest port in the world. But now they say if we're not the biggest, we want to be the smartest port in the world. And so they say the most important thing to achieve that is radical innovation and workplace innovation, or social innovation, as they say. And so the question was, again, to me, Stephen, can you help us think and talk about what is needed to do that? And I will say to them that they should come to Porto and to Portugal to learn from your experience, because we as the Netherlands are running somewhat behind. I'm going to share my screen and then we can talk about the results in my presentation. So let's, oh yeah. I hope you can all see this. So just to give you some background, I'm working at TNO, which is a major research center in the Netherlands. And also I'm one day a week a professor at the university in Leuven in Belgium. And in my TNO environment, we are working on a major Horizon 2020 project called Beyond 4.0. What happens after Industry 4.0? Well, what happens after the technological revolution? That's the question that we're trying to answer with this project. And I tend to say that if you do invest into workplace innovation, then after Industry 4.0, it all will be fine. Okay, but we, in the past years, I've also been working along with the research center in Dublin called Eurofound. And they have produced surveys since 1991 on what is happening in Europe. In the first years, it was only surveys with individuals, with individual workers. And since 2003, they've started with the European Company Survey. And I've been on the advisory board and helped them in several discussions over the years. And for the last survey, 2019 survey, I was asked to evaluate the results and to help them produce the actual final report that they now have been that they now put on their website. And looking at this report, I saw these exciting information, I think, from a Portuguese perspective, and I thought it would be nice to discuss this with you, because probably you understand them somewhat better than I do. And discussing them with Jorge at the beginning, I think there was some hesitation to say that Portugal is doing quite nice on the level of workplace innovation. So there are a lot of questions about it, and I think that it's important to understand what these figures are and what kind of discussion that you should be having in Portugal. So let me share, let's go to the next page. It's not working here. Okay, there it is. So what did I want to share with you? I just want to show to you what Eurofound Cedefop is, what the European Companies Survey does. Then focus on these remarkable results for Portugal, or maybe they're totally normal, but then we can understand that from your perspective. And there was this remark made by Jorge that maybe we can't trust these survey results, and so I want to deal with that question. And if we then look at these results and what they really mean, that's I think important for you to understand what kind of performance benefits you can have if you have this kind of situation, and which kind of systemic benefits there are for Portugal. And with that, I think then this opens up, I think, the discussion that we can have in this workshop. So what is the European Company Survey? As I explained, Eurofound and CEDEFOP, two European agencies, research agencies, focused at what is going on at the workplace, what at the individual worker, but also what is going on at the company level. They collect a lot of information, try to understand what's working, what's not working. And they, for the European Company Survey of 2019, they've collected a lot of information about how that companies function. This is not the first time that they've done that. They've done this same exercise in 2013. So there is some comparison possible between the results of 2013 and 2019. But they've collected information about the work organizations, how are companies organized, what kind of HR policies are followed, what are companies doing with training, and the last element, how are workers engaged in the company, what can we see on employee voice. And if we understand that, then we can see the relationship with the digital revolution, with innovation, with product market innovations on the one side, and on the bottom side, we can understand if these things do have an effect on workplace well-being of the individual worker and on the performance of the companies. So understanding this core element is what Eurofound wants to do, and they want to see if companies and individual workers can profit from that. So let's dive into the results for Portuguese establishments. And you can see here on the right side at the 7th position in this graph, Portugal, and you can see the Netherlands totally at the left side. And it means, I think that the intention of Eurofound was to say that the left was not the best position, and to the right was you were better positioned. So you could say that Portugal is at the 7th position in Europe, compares itself for the leading type of companies, which are what they say high investment, high involvement companies. I'll come back to that later and explain what they mean with it. But it shows here that Portugal has much more companies that are high investment, high involvement, more, maybe 3 times as much as in the Netherlands. And they're not too far away from companies which are quite known to be in that area, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark. So there is a situation that seems to be quite positive for Portugal, and that's what we're trying to understand. And for me, it's also important to understand why the Netherlands is totally at the left side. What can we learn from other countries? In the past, I know that the Netherlands was more at the right side, and there was this conviction in the Netherlands that it would always stay in that position. So there is clearly a task for us in the Netherlands to do something. And so if I'm a professor of workplace innovation, of organizational innovation, I'm certainly doing something wrong if the Netherlands is coming into that corner. So maybe I should not be giving this talk. Okay, but let's look at the results of 2013. Then you can see that they switched the order around. So if you're now at the left side, then it seems to be that you're in a better position. And if you're at the right side, then now you're probably wanting to learn from those at the left side. And here you can see that Finland and Sweden, again, are the leaders with having the most companies in systemic and involving type of practices, and the least number of companies with passive management. And you can see that the Netherlands is not too far away from the Swedish, Finnish, Danish types of companies. But Portugal is here way down the list with only about 22-23% of companies in the systemic and involving type of organization. So there it would seem that if you compare 2013 to 2019, that the Netherlands and Portugal have crossed each other, and we are at the other side of the classification, which is a quite striking phenomenon. So there are many questions that arise if you look at this kind of distribution and these kind of changes. Is it important to understand these kinds of changes? Well, here you have, for the 2013 ranking, the impact of the organizational position that companies have on the performance, establishment performance, and also on the performance on workplace well-being. So the one is more at the financial side, and the other indicator is what it means for employees in the companies. And there you see that Portugal is in the lower quadrant, and the Netherlands is in the higher quadrant. So the Netherlands outperforms Portuguese companies apparently in that time quite significantly, as well on establishment performance, as well as on workplace well-being. So there is a reason to that you need to understand why your companies, why your country is performing at a certain level, because it does have an impact on those performance indicators. And then, of course, the question is, can we trust the results? Is it correct that the Netherlands has gone down as much as it has done, and Portugal has gone up in that way? Well, just to show you what kind of a survey has been done, how many companies have been engaged in these surveys, and if we can learn something from what kind of research that has been done. In 2013, that was the last time they did a telephonic interview with companies. So they phoned all these companies that you can see, around 30,000 in the whole of Europe. Actually, and I think you can see that my mouse is marking 26,797 companies have been contacted in management interviews. And of these nearly 30,000 companies, there are about 8,000 in which also employee representatives were interviewed. So if you look at the Netherlands, at that time, about 1,108 companies were contacted, of which actually 400, half of them, employee representatives were contacted. In Portugal, also that same number, but less employee representatives. For 2019, you can see that the actual management interviews is in both cases around 1,000, but you can see that the number of companies where employee representatives were contacted is much less than in 2013. The major change between 2013 and 2019 is that in 2019, companies were contacted by phone, but they were asked to complete a survey online. So there is maybe an impact of the method of data collection. So the question, can we trust the results? Of course, with all kinds of surveys, there's always some kind of uncertainty, some doubts in the results. But I want to stress the points that show that you can trust these results. First and for all, there are a lot of companies that have stayed and sticked into the same place. So Sweden, Denmark, Finland, they're at the top in 2013, they're at the top in 2019. Bulgaria, Greece, they were at the bottom in 2013, they are at the bottom in 2019. So there is stability in certain directions. But there are some companies that have dropped quite significantly. And here you can see those countries like Estonia, Luxembourg, the Netherlands. And there are companies that have risen quite strongly to the list, like UK, France, Portugal. So there is change, and and I think that's also a good thing, because if the surveys would only reproduce the same kind of results, there would also be something tricky about the surveys. The kind of classification that we see in 2013 and 2019 is not the same. You could see that there were 5 types in 2013. There are 4 types of companies in 2019. That's not the same. So there is a change in definition, and the way that these indicators have been composed also reflects some changes. But there is also a reflection of environmental changes. Like in the Netherlands, I know that there has been a lot of investment in making the labor market more flexible and to change a lot of rules which were in favor for employees. So that you can see that there is less quality of work that from the employee side, it does not look that positive, is, I think, a reflection in the results of the survey. So bottom line, the 2 surveys themselves cannot be compared in results, but it does not mean that the actual outcomes are not to be trusted. In fact, I think they're quite good, because at face value, several of these results are what we would expect them to be. Okay, then let's look deeper then at what these results then mean. And I think you need to understand the classification that they've now used is something that is more understandable for organizations, for managers, for employees. And the first question is, do you invest in employee involvement in companies? Do you do that? No or yes? That's the kind of central question that you want to have. And the second is the message that you have on employee engagement and all those kind of things, is your message focused on those kind of elements or not? Are you conscious of your policies? That's the kind of question that is being put forward. So if you take these 2 questions, then you have 4 situations. The first is that there's probably no investment or very moderate. And also there's no talk. At least there's a lot of talk about employee investments, involvement, but you're not backing it up with investments. So this is the quadrant that I would say it's all talk, but no backing in investments. The second one is you're not doing anything at all with your employees. You're just hoping that your company is a kind of spot market. You're not investing in your relationships. You're not giving people sufficient contracts. And so your company is organized as a kind of spot market, I would say. The third category is then, well, you do invest in employee involvement, but your language is not in line with that. So you don't have a real good idea, no vision, no strategy on employees. Your measures are a bit ad hoc, but you do invest in employee involvement. But it's the quadrant that I would call undirected change. You want to change something, but you don't know in which direction you should do that. And the last one is then, well, you're investing and your language is also in the same line. So it is high investment, high involvement, but it's aligned. So alignment is an important dimension of this. So these are, in fact, the 4 models that Eurofound and CEDEFOP have tried to measure in Europe. Are the languages and are the investments aligned? So here you have an overview of all these things in more detail. So they're measuring a lot of things about work organization, about HR practices, and about employee voice. I will share with you this presentation so you don't have to write this down or look at this in detail, but you can understand that there are multiple indicators for each of these 4 models, which is the high investment, high involvement. And this is the undirected change model, and this is the all talking, but no backup kind of model. So that's what the ranking in fact means. So let's have a deeper look at what actually these tables show. So you can see for Portugal that there is about, I'm trying to move this because I can't see the figures on my screen. The high investment, high involvement is about 1/3, 27% of companies in Portugal are in this category, which means talk and investment are aligned. Companies are investing in their employees to make a change. But the category, the second category, which is selective investment, moderate involvement, is quite small. It's only 17%. The category moderate investment, I'm trying to get text here, irregular involvement of employees is quite big. So the group of, there's a lot of talk, but there's no backing in investment is quite big in Portugal. And the group that has no involvement, no investment is quite small. So that if you look at the Portuguese situation, there are a lot of companies that want to go forward, but they do not invest in the right way. They do not have this understanding of how to do that. That is the largest category. But in a lot of cases, this green part is quite strong. And if you compare that to the Dutch situation, you can see that the group where I would say undirected change is quite big. Okay. Message in. I think there's a new participant. The situation in the Netherlands is we've seen an enormous rise of self-employment, flexible contracts, and a lot of changed employment practices by companies, and this is reflected in the figures. The question for me for Portugal is that probably organizational innovation, which is, as I know it, a topic since 10 years in Portugal, is getting somewhere into the genes, into the thinking of companies, into the practices. It's probably not quite clearly identified, but apparently it is there. And if we're 100 persons here in this meeting, then it says that there's a lot of interest into the topic. Why should you want to have this kind of organizational model? Well, this figure shows, again, this figure from the beginning with the quality of work, workplace well-being. Are you scoring well on that element? And establishment performance. Well, if you're in the high investment, high involvement, and you compare that to the situation with low investment, low involvement, these companies have a standardized score which can be calculated in percentages, and 11% better performance than the low investment, low involvement, and halfway with the two other forms. I worked with Eurofound to understand what that really would mean, and we did the calculation for the Netherlands. And if all the companies from low investment and low involvement would move up to the group high investment, high involvement, it would mean a performance improvement in the Netherlands of billions of euros. So there is an incentive for a country to understand why these companies are distributed in this way. Of course, the calculation that I've done is not completely correct, but it does give you an indication that there's room for improvement. But these are, let's say, clear indicators, but there are also indirect reasons why you would want to have organizational innovation. Those companies that are in the green category, they're more eager, they're more comfortable with digital transformation, they're more susceptible to to digital transformation. They perform better on this element. They are also producing more innovations to the market than other organizational models. And their bottom line, they're more innovative in their product market strategies than other types of companies. So next to the fact that you already have benefits in terms of quality of work and the performance of companies, you already also have better positions and a better context for this change that you need for the future. So to build on these outcomes, if I look at these results for Portugal, then I see that the major category is the category all talk, little backing. Even if we have a very big group of companies that do have the talk, but also have the investment, there is still this group that needs to improve. So if you're an organization or a platform focusing on organizational innovation, you have to understand that a lot of companies are talking about organizational innovation, but they're not doing it. And that's and they probably have questions about how to do it, which kind of investment, which kind of organizational program should you be doing. So those are the questions that these companies probably want to have answered. So another question that I have is, has the workplace really improved for the Portuguese employee? Well, you've seen from the survey, as it has been conducted, that there are a little employee representatives in the survey. So maybe there are some questions there. So for the future, I would say the thing is, understand why you are doing well on certain elements. Understand that, because that's how you can improve for the future. So for the final question is, what do Portuguese companies need for further improvement? And that's what I wanted to share with you. So thank you. Jorge. I hope I didn't take too much time.
No, thank you, Stephen. It was great to hear such results, because I think. Sorry, please answer this short query so that we can understand the audience better. Okay. But what I think is that there are lots of practice on organizational innovation in the Portuguese companies, but as there is specific direction for it, we have finance, HR, but we don't have a specific interlocutor for these themes. So there isn't work systematized so that we can understand what it is. And it's difficult for companies to understand where to get guidance on these themes. That's why we want to implement an observatory to understand what we have and to share and to know the experts and champions. So it's very interesting. So we have that inquiry. We see we have 26% of people that deal with organization, process, and continuous improvement. Okay, but many others. Okay, Carlos, do you have the other two questions?
Not yet.
Okay, while you prepare it, we can hear the comments of Isabel and Marta. So Isabel is in charge of a manufacturing company. Looking at this, what do you think? What is your reaction?
So thanks for the invitation to be present in this webinar. And concerning the results of the survey, it is important, and I think it is important for the country to have these practices. And if we see what we are doing here in the factory, so we are an American company, so it could be a bit different in terms of doing the things, because our capital is American and we have a different policy concerning the investments. But talking with different companies also in Portugal, I see that what we are doing here, it's not too much different from what certain companies in Portugal and well-organized companies are also doing in Portugal. So since 2014, we are investing a lot. We are almost investing 1 million euros per year. And these investments are related to the capacity increase and to increase the work conditions, also investing in digitalization and improvement of the safety conditions at the workplace. So I think it's important to do investment in all the areas. And due to that investments, we had to adapt our team members to these practices, providing them the appropriate training to improve their knowledge and their empowerment. So the SRAM team members are our greatest and most valuable asset. So we had to develop and engage our team members as a priority. So what we had is to implement a lot of actions, and I will tell some of that actions. So having a good and appropriated continuous training program, it's one of our goals. So we should giving training continuously to our team members to have them committed and knowing everything that we are doing in the company. So also a good communication, it's also very important. And we have a culture of employee recognition and appreciation. So we are trying to celebrate also our success with all the team members. Even we have, so I can share with you, we have one practice during the anniversary day of each team member. We are, and in this case it's myself, so I call the person that is doing the anniversary, and I meet with that person for at least 5-10 minutes to congratulate them and also to say thank you for the work that they are doing to the company and what they are contributing to the goals and objectives that we are achieving together. So we are also using the associations program. So the team members are, so we have a suggestions program, and they are, we are asking them to give their suggestions. So in terms of work conditions, in terms of how they can improve the workplace. So, and they are really participating, and some of the suggestions that they are giving have some benefits, and then in the end we share with them the earnings that we are having. Other suggestions don't have profit, but we are giving also something to them, at least something not very profitable, but we are always promoting them to give these suggestions. So we have also some social initiatives, and we have a team building, we have a lot of team building activities. Now with the pandemic situation, it's not so easy, as you know, but we are promoting also a lot of activities where they can share experiences and even having picnics together, having the family day together. So a lot of things. And internally we have culture of proximity and family. So I think it's all these things are very important to have an engaged and motivated team that can contribute to our goals and objectives. I don't know, George, if I answered to your question, or if you want me to answer something different.
No, that's fine. I see you have some practice that means a real involvement on people and investment, and sometimes people forget to celebrate the success, and that means a big difference. Thank you very much. Then during discussion we can know a little more about your practice. So I would like to ask Marta to say what is the perspective of a HR director looking for the the effort he does close to the CEO to implement the measures to benefit people.
First of all, thank you for the invitation. And I really like to hear Isabel, and I'm very happy for her being able to know the importance of celebrating the success of people and to be improving the relationships in the company, because I know that that is really important for the happiness at work and for the involvement of people. So first of all, I would like to say to Stephen that I totally agree with the expression that there is still a lot of talk and little backing. I think we really need to walk the talk. We have still a lot of command and control leadership in Portugal. Maybe, perhaps that has changed a little bit with the pandemic, but above all in the industrial environment. And I'm talking about more familiar industries. There is not much of a room to autonomy and to accountability yet. So I guess it will explain some of the results that you had. We have a lot of head counts instead of hard counts. And there's a low connection, in my view. There is still a low connection between leaders and employees. And that really doesn't work when we want sustainable growth. So I think the problem is that one. I think we need to, as Isabel said, to work on leaderships, and that is worked by training, and I think the tactic, trying to respond to your question, George, the tactic to CEOs must be the other way around. So showing them that in a very objective way, the lack of well-being costs a lot of money to a company. Explaining that they, if they don't have that, they will have turnover, they will have more costs in recruitment and selection, they will have absenteeism, and even work accidents will increase if they have people demotivated. So that should be the trigger, the costs. I don't know if you want me to answer. I will be able to. I understand the numbers, Stephen. I do understand them, because I know that the last 6 years we changed a lot. But I think there's a lot to change, especially with the leadership. Yeah. George, do you want me to comment on another issue or something?
Thank you. It was a great witness of the practice, because I think we feel that there was a big change in many companies, but we also feel that many others stayed same. So it's not homogeneous. So we need to do something to have something comprehensive to understand what is going on. Thank you very much. So now it's time for the discussion. I would like that people could put their questions, give their contributions, or simply share some ideas. If you want, you can do it in Portuguese, no problem. So please go ahead. No questions.
I have one question, Josh.
Okay.
I have a lot of questions, but it looks like our audiences don't like to put questions. So, so our, let's say, landscape of companies in Portugal. So we know that they are very, very small. So that's a compelling argument, you know, when we think about, you know, doing this organizational innovation, when, you know, people are striving just to survive with not very much, let's say, resources to work on the workplace innovation. But, you know, disregarding that aspect, so we saw in the charts that there's let's say high investment. So there is a number of companies in Portugal with a high investment. So how much is that high investment? So how can we compare? Is that a percentage of the turnover of the company? Is it an absolute number? Yeah. How can we, let's say, have a certain level of understanding what the figures mean? Okay, so we kind of have an idea. You know, I heard this last week, someone saying that in Europe 90% of the companies are small and medium companies. So this is really important to see how we can not just target the big ones. I think that, as Isabel was saying, I think that she was very right when she says that, you know, most of the companies that we know have similar practices, and I'm very happy that in a manufacturing company she has implemented these practices. But you know, for bigger companies, that is, I think it is a must. And if you are not doing that, you know, probably you're out of market. But the question here is that, you know, how can we, let's say, level those figures that you have, and how we fit that into the landscape of our companies? Okay.
Well, maybe some comments. First of all, when I'm talking to Dutch companies or Belgian companies, or then they say most of our companies are very small, and that's right. In numbers, the amount of companies that are small and medium-sized is enormous. But if you look closely, then you will understand that half of employment is still in bigger companies. So even if there are a lot of small companies, most of employment is in bigger companies. The survey is biased in this sense that it only looks at companies of 10 persons and more. So the very small companies are not in the survey. So the practices that they are happening, they're not in view. Maybe the word investment is a bit misleading in the sense it does not reflect investment funds. It's about the type of measures that companies have implemented. So these measures saying that, as Isabel has been pointed out, they have done these elements of trying to make sure that you look at the successes of the companies, that you're having a good recruitment system, that you have a good training system. All these kind of things are important for companies, and you should invest sufficiently into that. We know that over time, companies are more and more investing into this soft side of organizational practices. And the amount of money that is needed for the soft side, it's at this moment maybe 60% of the total investment that companies do. Machines and all those kind of things is only 40% of the total investment that companies do. So if you're investing that amount of money into these measures, then you want to do it good. You don't want to waste away these kind of investments. But a lot of companies, they are doing, and they're spending this money, but they're not having a good vision on how to do that. And so when we look in the Netherlands, for example, at companies, we see that there are 4 types of problems that they have. The first is that they probably are investing in all these measures, but they have no view that it's possible that the organization itself has an impact on their performance. They think that just buying a machine is sufficient to get performance, but that's clearly not the case. So that's a problem of perception. The second is they probably know that there's organizational innovation and that is important, but they don't know what it means and how to compose all these measures to get their company to perform better. So there's a problem of inspiration. And there's a third category, and that's the largest category in the Netherlands, and I suppose that might also be the case in Portugal. That's those that do know what the measure is, but they're not motivated to do it. So they need an incentive to get there. And then there's a last category that has tried it, but has not been successful with it. So, and those companies miss the right information or the right kind of support. So all these arguments, all these situations point to the fact that you need something like innov.org because you need the right information, you need the right kind of implementation stories, you need the kind of incentives for companies to make this change over to better practices. So stories like Isabel and like Marta are sharing, they are extremely important for companies to change over. They need to understand that you have, with little monetary investment, you have enormous impact on your performance of companies. So I think that's first response that I want to give to Jorge.
Thank you, Stephen. Jorge, do you have more questions?
Yeah, I can leave them. I can leave them for a couple of after a couple of more. You know, we see that in the chat. There is a one here.
Okay, it's someone from Angola that is asking how can we motivate and create conditions to convince the boards to invest in people. I could maybe add that reading the report, I saw that more than 50% of the incentives that are put in practice are not monetary. And that is very interesting because in Portugal, monetary incentives are much more spread, I suppose, than the others. And this means trust. And sometimes we don't find trust in people. There is a concern about the board of companies to try to see what the employees are doing instead of trusting them. And I think the governance systems are not decentralized. And when they say to invest on people means also to decentralize decision and to give information. And sometimes people don't have information. I don't know if there is any special hints to get the motivation of the boards to implement this practice. I would ask Isabel, what do you think is important to do to convince your colleagues in other companies? If you want to hire Isabel to spread these ideas, what should you suggest?
So it should be showed them that with a small effort, probably not a big monetary effort, we could have the people motivated. First, starting with a good communication. So all the people, it's true that there are some topics that we cannot discuss with the workers, but if they have a good understanding about the company, about what we are doing, what is our strategy, what are our goals and objectives for future, giving them a good perspective for future, and giving to the people the what we call in Portugal vestir a camisola. So if they work for the goals as own goals, I think it's really important, and it is something that the people like. The people like to contribute to the success of the company, and then and Marta said the same, celebrating the success of the measures. So I think it's really important. I think it's the most important, and it's where the people can start working with the teams. So having a good team building in the company, a place where the people are feeling good. So I have people on this moment that are working here, and what we see that they are doing, they are really motivated, and if needed, they can work more hours without complaining, because they are really interested about the results of the project or about the future of the project. So, you know, it's something that can involve the people, and I think the people like that.
Yes, but I think there is a barrier, because to share the company strategy, you need first to clarify it and to systematize it. And many times the CEOs of familiar companies and medium companies, they have a strategy in his mind, but they don't stop. They have no time to put it on paper so that they can communicate it to the others. So that is a barrier. So every time people want to do a new thing, they have to ask what's next. They cannot have the initiative to do things. So I would like to ask Marta, what do the employees claim to do more things and to contribute more?
Well, I think happiness at work has to be relationships, results, and we have to work. If we aim to have heart counts instead of head counts, we must work with it. We must improve our communication. We have to involve people. We have to let them evolve with us. We have to let the decision in their hands too. And I think I was asked to be here as an HR, but I honestly don't believe in HR in a purely pure HR. I believe in a strategic HR as an inclusive part of the company, very much aligned with the purpose, with the strategic results, understanding the business, understanding the KPIs existent, helping and training directors and line managers, designing training plans, as Isabel said, decentralized decision-making, and transforming job descriptions. Having on the back of our minds people's strengths, and that's how we motivate people. It's not just the balloons or the anniversaries, or that's just the way Stephen was saying, but we really need to walk the talk. We must work on a meaningful way. You know, we have to gain the engagement of the people, and among others, we have to work on relationships and on results. that's the issue. I don't have another recipe for this. People are happy if they feel they are part of the company. They are part of the decisions. They vestem a camisola if they feel that, if they really feel that. That's the only way.
One practice that I have been seeing in the context of workplace innovation is the focus on autonomous teams. Because typically you have a focus on the employee, HR focus the employee, then we have the departments, but the team as a unit of results, where people can effectively help each other focusing the same objective. This is difficult to find because many times the teams are functional because they are created inside the departments, and so it's not easy to find a result, an objective that depends only on that team. However, I think that the focus on teams that have a result, not functional teams, can somehow decrease the impact of the command and control style of management. I don't know, it's an issue. I would like people to
But
react.
people like results. People like results, and they like having results, and they like growing with the company, and that's the way. I don't. The HR department has to be both. Has to be on one hand the voice of the employees, but on the other hand, the right arm of the CEO. You know. They have to understand the company, they have to understand the strategic goals, and they have to train people, leadership, positive leadership, to get to the people in a very humanized way. Because robots will do the other things. You know, we have to work on that human side. Because robots will do the other things, the more automatic ones. But I cannot see the robots having the capacity to negotiate or the capacity of agile thinking or even to solve complex problems. So we have to work on that. And how? Training people. Training people. We are all adults. I think the question is to speak to the employees like they were children, I'm sorry. They are adults. They are productive, intelligent adults. So we have to work on that, on leadership, on positive leadership. The other things, in 10 years or in 5 years or in 3 years from now, the robots will do the rest. So let's just don't worry about that. Let's just worry about the human side.
Do you think, I don't know, maybe Isabel can talk about it, but I think to give to give some premium to the people, you need to define very well the objectives and to link the work to the results. And most of the times, I see that the premium comes from the speed of work. How many pieces per hour? It's this kind of performance, not the results of the business. So do you think that defining the objectives of the teams and designing the teams is also a barrier? What do you think, Isabel?
So designing the team. So here in the factory we have a performance evaluation every year, but it's not just based on the results, just on the results themselves of the person. So there are a lot of components. It's a big form with a lot of questions. A prime, it's something that normally the people could be interested, yes, in terms of productivity. But sometimes, and as Marta said, the most important, and the people likes money, sure, because the majority of them are in a place in the pyramid where the money is really important. If we are talking in a company with workers, that's normally that. So, and in the majority of the companies in Portugal, they are paying the minimum salary. So something that can give some prime to the workers, it's important. But I think the most important, and when we are creating teams, we should think about multi teams. So teams that are able to solve problems, to solve issues, work together to achieve the same goals and objectives, and not one person itself, you know, so something like that, I think.
I'd like to ask Stephen,
George,
if you can elect...
You have some questions in chat that were raised by some of the participants.
I see, but I will read it right now. But meanwhile, Stephen, can you elect two practices that maybe make the most difference? What kind of two practices that the successful companies typically get some return?
Yeah. That's a very, very, very hard question, Jorge. In this sense that we did a very close investigation on the 2013 European Company Survey. We selected 50 companies all over Europe, which were leading organizational innovators, and tried to understand why these companies were doing what they were doing, and what the differences were between these companies. And a first thing that was quite striking was that when we approached these companies, we went to Lithuania to a company, we went to Greece for such a company, and we asked them, we said, from what we see from the practice that you have, you are a leading company, and they had no clue. They did not understand that they had this leading practice. Some of them did, but a major group did not understand that they were in this position. So it's not always clear at the forehand. The second thing that was quite striking was that we used a very special technique to analyze that, but we could see that there are 5 to 6 ways to get to Rome. So there are multiple ways to get to the top place, and it really depends on a lot of contextual elements, things that are happening in the environment in which managers and employees need to deal with for these changes. But in the end, they come to this model in which they have these 3 elements: employee voice, that people speak up and speak out for what they think, and that they do what they say. So that's the first thing that is important. The second thing is that leadership has to be a kind of supportive leadership, gives the frameworks, but does not have this command and control as a core element into it. So those are two elements. There's a third, I'm trying to think of it at this moment. So it's I'll come back to it later on, but it is necessary for companies. So the third element has to do with the learning, how you deal with learning with these companies. A lot of companies probably here on the screen have been investing a lot into quality management, into zero errors, and Six Sigma, and all those quite hot topics. But you have to understand that the world that we're into now is so volatile, it's so ambiguous, it's so complex. There's so much uncertainty that you can't organize perfection for this kind of environment. So you need to understand that within your companies, you're going to make a lot of errors, but you need to make those errors because you need to learn from those errors and you need to correct for those errors. So you have to have this kind of learning community, this learning circle within your practices to improve itself. So so if you invest and develop those kind of things within your companies, then you will move forward, Jorge.
Yeah, one question that Fernando Sousa is asking is, what's the difference between workplace innovation and shop floor innovation?
Well, yeah, let's say in the Netherlands, we talk about social innovation. In Belgium, we talk about innovative work organizations. So it's a bit, but the main importance is that workplace innovation means it's bottom-up innovation. It's the contrary of management innovation. So a lot of concepts like quality management, Six Sigma, and those things are management innovations. It means that management thinks, oh, I found a solution. Everyone in the organization is going to follow my idea, and that's what I need to get implemented. And workplace innovation means that I don't have the solution, but I know that there's somebody along in the whole company who does. And I have to get that answer out of him. Because the world is so volatile for a company, you can't rely on only one enlightened manager or two enlightened managers within a company to move forward. You need 100 enlightened persons within your whole company to find a solution and move forward. That practice in which you try to get this learning and all these kinds of elements in, that's what we call workplace innovation. So it's not solely that people at the shop floor share their ideas amongst themselves. It's also sharing with the top, because that's the way it needs to move, and that's why I think there's a distinction between workplace and shop floor innovation.
Yeah, because I think workplace innovation, if we translate it to Portuguese word by word, it gives this notion of shop floor and not the environment, the context, the organizational context. That's why the question is being asked. I don't know if anybody else wants. I saw one question here. It was the impact of technology, because nowadays we have internet, we have the remote work, and the impact on the teamwork, the impact on the involvement of the people. Isabel, can you tell us if you have the impact of this scenario in your company?
The impact of the
remote work, technology, internet, and so.
So we are in a time where the technology is very important. Even the Teams, we are using Teams every day due to the pandemic situation, and I think it's the same in the majority of the companies, because a lot of them are also using the telework on this moment. So it's important to use them, but we know that for certain practices, and when we are working in the shop floor, so when we have producing company, we cannot have the machines working at home, but we can control the machines at home. We can control, but not having the machines at home. So in some areas, the technology, sure, it's really important, because with the Internet of Things, so we can have all the machines connected and we can see what the machines are doing, but we need also the people to control the machines. And as I told you, the team members are the most valuable asset that we have. So we need to take care of these people and giving them the support that they need. So they cannot working alone in the factory, just them and the machines. No, the managers should be present and should take care of them. So the technology it's important, but the people is important too.
Thank you. Marta, do you have any special advice to decrease the impact of the remote work so that you can keep the teamwork and the involvement of people? What should you suggest?
Jorge, I do think it is possible to engage people from a distance. Actually, I have 90% of my team working from home. So I'm on Teams, I'm on Zoom. It's possible to do it. In this VUCA world, the technology is of a huge importance. And it is possible. Of course, it's not the same thing because we like to touch, we like the hug and the coffee in the morning. Of course it isn't, and nobody likes this situation. But it isn't impossible. I have a lot of groups working from home and with a great productivity. I've been in the industry, Isabel, and I know that it's not the same thing, no chão de fábrica. We have to have, we cannot send people home, but we have to take care of them and we have to help them to see that their work is really, really important. They are in the front line and we have to show them that so that every product they manufacture is the meaning of their work. And they are the more important people, I'm sorry to say. So we have to take care of people so that the people can take care of our clients. But our job is just to take care of them.
Yeah.
Not to control them, not to be in their shoulder. But this pandemic, unfortunately, of course, but helped in that way, because it showed us that it's not mandatory to command and control. People work.
We need to support them. We need to support them, Marta. So on this moment, so before the pandemic situation, I had meetings with the workers 3-4 times a year. And nowadays I'm having every month. So in small groups and talking and thanking them for the work that they are doing and giving them the numbers, the things that they are producing and telling them that they are very, very important for the company, in that case for all the group, not just for me, to contribute to the success that we are having on this moment, because the bicycle industry on this moment is...
Yes, and they are so important, so we need to give them the information they need, as you were telling us. We need to give them safety, and not just physical safety. Well, we are on COVID right now, so we need to keep them safe, physically speaking. But, and so important, in my view, is psychological safety, you know, that is safe for them to say their opinion, to give a statement, to help us decide something. well, we could be talking to each other for hours, Isabel. So thank you, George, for this meeting.
I know you have to leave, Martha. Can you give us a suggestion for Innovorg to do an initiative? What do you think we could put in place?
Well, let's work innovation with happiness at work, and I will be happy to join you. Okay, let's work on that. I think leaders do need it. Okay.
So
thank you for the invitation, and I was very pleased to be here and to know you all. Stephen, thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Isabel. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Thank you.
So we keep going. We have another discussion about business schools, but before going on that discussion, I don't know if is there anyone that wants to put a question or share an idea?
I have one last question, George. I'm
sorry.
Stephen, you told us that you presented your, let's say, the headline of your first slide was Beyond 4.0. So yeah. I'm a person I'm personally very interested in Industry 4.0. So I work for a manufacturing company. I'm very interested on this so-called revolution. We have been discussing a lot of, and here we also discussed a lot about the reason why companies have people, and also the purpose for people to work in the company. So giving them a feeling or a purpose to work in the company is something that is really important. You know, some people, other people call it mission, so it depends on the way you see it. So it doesn't matter. The question here is that we are looking with some concerns about, where are we heading to? So are we heading to heaven or to hell? So it depends on how you're going to use the technology. This is not my wording. This is from Gerhard Leonard, a futurist from Switzerland. But I think that there is some of the things that are missing right now is in terms of digital ethics or techno ethics, for example. So how are we going to use this technology that our engineers are building and engineering to solve problems, because this revolution is coming much faster than we can imagine. I see it every day with the amount of data that we are generating and bonding that data with processes and bounding that data with machines and with people. So we are having a lot of new ways of managing things. Now, you told something that is very varying, which is, you said, if we do the right things right now, okay, when the industry 4.0 comes in place, so the companies that do this right now and do it right, they can rest that they will be leading the world and they will be leading the economy. Yeah. Do you have a vision that you would like to share of what is the future of that Beyond 4.0 in regard to the people's role in the companies?
Well, if you look at a lot of these discussions, then there's a lot of focus on 21st century skills. There's lots of discussion about T-shaped skills, and it seems as if the future is depending on your personal skills. So if you have them, fantastic. If you don't have them, then you're in a poor situation. The figures from the European Company Survey, they show that what you have as an individual is important, but it's more important the kind of organizational environment that you're in. Because only in a high investment, high involvement situation, if you have those skills, you will be able to develop them. If you're in the other categories, if you're in the low investment, low involvement, and you have 21st century skills, you won't be able to do anything with them because you're in a command and control situation, and there's nobody going to be asking you to deploy those skills. So that's something that we need to understand. So we need this kind of environment in which you can develop yourself and apply your ideas and those kind of things. So it's important to have this this perspective on the organizational situation. And you could also see from the figures that those environments also are a precondition for better use of technology. So the companies that are developing and using digital technologies are those companies that have invested into their employees. So it's not because you're investing in technology that you will lose personnel. It's those companies that invest in technology. If they want to be successful with technology, they need to invest into their organizational innovation and into the talent that they have. So the organizational innovation is a precondition for better use of technology, and you can see that those companies are more successful than others. So the future, if we want to be using the capabilities of technologies in a better way, then we need to have this organizational innovation as a context. And this organizational innovation as a context is also the context that learns us to pose the right questions about technology. So for example, AI, there's a lot of discussion about how to make it more human friendly. So there's this explainable AI, there's a discussion about human-centered AI, there's a discussion about how to do that and what are the instruments. But I'm sure that in the couple of years, we will be talking about sociocentric AI, in the sense that we understand that AI is important, but we need to have the right grip on how AI is developing within companies. So in my perspective, the future will certainly be a future with a lot of people employed, but it depends on the kind of organizational context, in what kind of situation these people will be employed. So if you're going to have a future with a lot of talent, a lot of possibilities, then you have to understand how organizational innovation is going to be supportive for the organizational and technological changes that you want to be doing in that future. So that would be my shorthand, Jorge, to your question.
Thank you, Stephen. Are you saying something more, George?
No, I was saying just to conclude that, leadership here is very important. So without a CEO that, envisions that he has to deliver, he has to develop people and so they can use technology on their own benefit. So it means that, in the short term, many of their people will be obsolete because the skills that they don't have are no longer relevant in the companies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think we are going to move to the last part of the workshop. We have seen that in this sample of 1,000 companies, 27% did very well. So in Innovorg, we want to discover those 270 companies to identify their practice and ask them to share with us what they are doing. So I would like to ask so Carlos Brito to do his talk about the business schools and the role of business schools to spread and motivate the boards. And as the Eurofund says, it's difficult to change the actual managers, so business schools should care about preparing the next generation of managers. So that's the message. So please.
Thank you, George. I think, in fact, that's the great challenge for business schools, how to prepare executives and, in general, professionals for the needs of the market, but of course, market in the future, because we are preparing people for the future. And as a matter of fact, the world is, as said before, is a VUCA world, is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And this is becoming more and more VUCA, especially very much because of this pandemic that we are facing now, but also very much because of digital revolution and so forth. I would say that business schools can do may have three major roles. The first is transferring knowledge. This is very much what traditional universities and in general and business schools have done, transferring knowledge. But they can do also another thing, is developing skills. It's not only a matter of knowing things, but knowing how to do things, how to get things done. And this is, to some extent, is a major challenge, because the traditional professor, traditional teacher, with I would say with a speech in the classroom is no longer the method that we must use. We must put students in the context, working together with the teachers, so that they learn how to do skills, how to do things, that is, how to develop skills. But now we have a third big challenge, which is how to foster attitudes. This issue was very much addressed in this seminar, and it is really, really important, because people, the most important thing that we can get in a business school is not only knowledge, even because knowledge today is always being it needs to be updated. So knowledge is something that with a very short, I would say, period of life. It's not only skills, but attitudes. I would like to share with you here just these, I think that you can see, these are the 10 top skills for 2025 that are suggested by the World Economic Forum. And as you can see here, you see analytical thinking and innovation. In fact, this seminar has to do with innovation, active learning and learning strategies. And your question, George, has to do with learning, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity, leadership. We also address very much leadership. And only in this place, technology use and technology design. Then we have resilience, stress tolerance and flexibility. And finally, reasoning and problem solving. I would say that only 2 out of 10 have to do with hard skills. The other skills have not to do with hard skills. They have to do with what I can say with soft skills and even with human skills. So now business schools have this major role, developing right attitudes, very much focused in what I can call human skills, of course, soft skills, human skills. I think that Marta, when she was here, she said this: in the future, the only way to compete with the robots is develop these human skills, and this is a major role for business schools, helping people to develop this sort of skills. One big idea to close my my speech. Business schools, and I would say that in general, universities must be no longer places to teach people.
Tá bom, tudo bem, tudo bem.
Teaching.
Tudo bem. Olha,
Okay. Teaching is dead. Long life to learning. Our role in universities is not teaching, but helping people to learn. We are just helpers. And if we help people to learn, they will become learners during their whole life. If we only teach, they always need the school to learn something. And the point is that for learning, people don't need to go to school, to business schools or to university. They just go to Google. The only way to develop people and the only way for the universities to keep their role in society is to transform themselves from teaching places into learning places. This is something that, so far at least, Google does not do. This is my last suggestions. Please don't keep in touch with business schools. Please keep in touch with universities, because we are becoming places when you can develop skills and where you can foster your human attitudes. Things that so far machines are not allowed to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlos. I take the opportunity to say that we are preparing a course, a continuous education course on these themes with the collaboration of Ewin, Stephen and other colleagues. Soon we are going to present to the university a course that involves the companies, the people, and it's more a place to learn, sharing ideas among the professionals and the companies and the professors and the research team, and all together have in fact to create that kind of ecosystems to learn this kind of ideas. I would like to share a final slide. This one, I think. Are you seeing? Okay, is there? I think to take away is just a resume of we have been talking. We have here some practice and ideas, guidelines, and to feed this virtuous cycle of well-being, performance, competitive advantage. I think we can have this slide as a resume of what we have been discussing, and we hope to organize more initiatives to share these ideas, but we need your help. So please come to us. This is a virtual conference that will take place next week. Stephen will be there again. And it's a good opportunity to hear from other experience from other countries. So please don't forget. And to close, I don't know if Stephen wants to say something.
No, the only thing I wanted to thank you and thank Carlos for the opportunity to share some information. And if there are any questions, I'm always glad to answer them.
My pleasure.
Isabel, I don't know if you want to say something.
Sorry, I don't have my camera here. So thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure to be part of this conference. I think it was really great to participate on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming too. So you have the site of Inovação. If you are not a member yet, we have already 55 associates, about 10 companies. I have seen people from OCP, Portugal, is our best friend because he is funding our association. I thank you them. So go to the website and become a member and give your ideas, because we have the opportunity to get the help of UN and put the several companies in contact with similar companies to exchange ideas. So we can be a hub of connection between similar experience, and that is the potential of UN, is quickly put in contact people from different sectors, different areas of work. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Carlos Brito, for this collaboration. And I hope you come again next event. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye to all.